And then, Philippe, the floor is yours.
Ruben, and indeed it is a very interesting session because I think we all know today it's no secret that our end customers are really worried about the vulnerability of their data on-prem. And it's today not only ransomware, but also the insider threats, even hardware failure with the actual delivery issues can cause serious damage to the business of the end customer. And that's exactly why BAS and DRaaS, so backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service, come into play. It's an easy and interesting offering by Veeam that allows you as a Veeam partner to offer an offsite secure data repository to your customers. That's exactly what I think, and we all think at Veeam, customers are nowadays looking for, to have this secured environment where they can store data offsite to make sure that in case of any disaster, they have this data available. So within this offering, this BAS and DRaaS offering, there are two key elements: Cloud Connect, and on top of that, the Veeam Service Provider Console. And today we focused on the latest version of the Service Provider Console, version 6. Why we want to have a real focus on this one is it's not fully 100% confirmed yet, but it may be that as from 2022, the Service Provider Console may become an obligation to use for our service providers. So it is really key that you as a Veeam partner, you are well aware of the possibilities, the real true value of this Service Provider Console. Now, before digging into that, let's first.
I can see.
Yourself?
Yeah, can you mute?
Not sure. Okay, so before digging into that, let's take a look at the use cases for BAS and DRaaS. I know this is might be well familiar to you, but it is really key in this offering, especially when you're going from a pure reselling perspective to a service provider, a service management offering to your end customers. So one of the things you can do with the Service Provider Console is the monitoring. And this may be not very well known to all of you, but even if an end customer is using Veeam licenses via reselling, with Cloud Connect and with the Service Provider Console, you can have a view on the configuration on-prem. How do you do that? Well, pretty easy. If the system could. And then
Go to the next slide, Philippe.
Yeah, just click on next. That would help. That's the one. So within the Veeam configuration at the end customer, so on-prem, you have this little box, allow this instance to be managed by the service provider. And once you click that, with Cloud Connect and the Service Provider Console, you will have a view on the configuration on-prem. It will not allow you to change something, but it is a first step into a managed service because it will allow you to follow what's going on at the on-prem environment. So if there is any issue on-prem, or if the end customer has questions, you will have the possibility to go into your Service Provider Console and you can check the situation. So that is, in fact, a first step into this the managed service with Cloud Connect and the Service Provider Console. If you can click, Arjan, because it's really going slow here. Yep. So the second step into the managed services offering is then you can manage the backup configuration on-prem. So suppose the customer has reselling keys from Veeam, and he wants you to take over the management on-prem. Even then, well, it's logic. If you can do the monitoring, the next step is you can do the management as well. So then with VCSP keys, you can take over the management of the whole backup system on-prem, and you can manage the whole configuration with the service provider console that you have at your end. So that's really taking over and offering a first real step into that managed service. And then, of course, the last step is the offsite backup or replication. So then really the customer says like, okay, now it's all on-prem. I want to make sure that I have an offsite backup, and then the backup from the customer will go to a repository that you will provide either in your data center, your cloud, in public cloud. That's up to you where you store that data. But anyway, it can be fully secured offsite under your management. And there again, Cloud Connect Service Provider Console will allow you to do so. Arjan will go really into the technical details later on. So version 6, Service Provider Console version 6. Now, we came a long way. The VCSP program has been launched in 2010, so already more than 10 years. And we really listened to you because, well, those days I wasn't even at Veeam, so I cannot talk by experience, but it was really a pretty basic configuration. So then we introduced the Cloud Connect. In 2016, we introduced the Veeam Service Provider Console because everyone was saying like, yeah, we need some management tool. And since we only continued to deliver what you as partners asked for. And that's why now in 2021, the major remarks were like, yeah, you know, we can have a view on almost all systems, but not on Office 365 or Veeam 1. Well, guess what? As from version 6, we do have this monitoring and management capabilities of Office 365 and Veeam 1 included into the service provider console. So that's really great news, and it will allow you to have that full view of your customer. It will also make your life very easy from a reporting perspective, because now you've got everything inside one console, and at the end of the month, it's just a check in your service provider console, and you can do the reporting out of the service provider console easy. Also, with regards to licensing itself, there is a link now with the version 6 between the Pulse, which is I suppose a tool that you all know pretty well by now, and it's pretty much appreciated for sure, because it allows you to cut licenses when needed. Well, the same functionalities are now included in the service provider console. So out of there, out of your service provider console, you can create licenses on the spot. Whenever your end customer needs, whenever you need it, you can create, cut licenses, no matter how much, for what, for which product, everything is possible. Okay. So I already touched the next slide, the Office 365 and the Veeam 1 included into the service provider console. Then another possibility, as from now on, is the reseller support. So if you have, let's say, other resellers that are offering your service to their customers, it will allow these resellers from your service to manage their own licenses. So you don't need to do that on their behalf. They can do it themselves, and they can have a view on their consumption, but it's also included automatically into your reporting, into your consumption at the end of the month. So very simple to manage. And then a last, okay, I think you all know that the Veeam software is very open. So we even enhanced the APIs. So if you're very familiar with that, you can even further integrate or find new ways to develop or to integrate the service provider console into your systems. One of the key elements here that I'm often talking to partners is like, just going back to one of the previous slides, if you manage or if you monitor the configuration of an end customer on-prem, if he's got resell keys, you can have a view on when these licenses expire in your service provider console. So pretty easy. If with an API call, let's say 2-3 months before the expiration date of these licenses, you can generate a call into your sales department saying like, hey guys, these are expiring within X months. Please reach out to the customer to discuss our managed service offering. It's all possible. If you're not very familiar with APIs, I can tell you that Arjan can show you the right links, but there are a lot of scripts available today already on our portals to integrate into your system. So very, very easy.
It's on our Veeam hub. So
yep.
We have a Veeam hub where people, it's a community-driven site where customers share scripts, other things and stuff. So there are some things you can find there regarding this. Yes. Sorry, Philippe.
Yep. And so with that, I think these are the 4 key elements that that have changed into the version 6 on a high-level view. And now it's up to Arjan to go into the technical details. I think most of you are waiting for that one, to really see, okay, how can we do that into our daily life? How can we use these new stuff into the real world? So Arjan, up to you.
Thank you, Philippe. So let's jump into the service provider console. So Philippe already explained a little bit. So the core capabilities. So the remote monitoring and management. I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes. So we're going to live demo that. But then you can automatically onboard your customer and you can automatically bill your customer. So that goes hand in hand, to be honest. The license and users reporting, and now with version 6 we have VCSP Pulse integration. So if you want to automate this, you can. So for example, build a portal yourself where one of your customers can subscribe and they can automatically get a Veeam license key of your rental contract. That's a possibility you could do. So I'm not saying you should do, but it's a possibility. With automatically, you can onboard that and you can start monitoring and managing it. Of course, it's multi-tenancy. So with resellers and customers separated, with role-based access control, rights you can define, and you can change. So one customer can use backup as a service, the other can use disaster recovery as a service. So it depends on your customers what you want to offer, and each customer, each tenant has its own business case. Of course, fully automated with a nice portal, or you build the portal yourself with our APIs. So let's go to the next one. But how do you start then? So Veeam Service Provider Console works on top of Cloud Connect. And what I basically almost always tell our customers is just start by using Veeam Cloud Connect and Service Provider Console. Do not offer backup as a service yet. Just get some visibility from your customer. So you have a customer, and that customer is running its own VBR server, for example, with its own repositories. It doesn't matter how many, how is that set up? Is that one repository? Is it a NAS? It doesn't matter. So the customer has its own infrastructure, perhaps different hypervisors or some agents, even a NAS to make backups of. When you as a service provider start with Cloud Connect, you set up a Cloud Connect backup server, and we have a cloud gateway, and on top of that we install the Veeam Service Provider Console. Just add this customer to Cloud Connect, like Philippe showed you in one of the first slides. Add the Cloud Connect service provider. Make sure you check that checkbox, allow the service provider to manage, and then you get a visibility into their infrastructure. That's it. Just start with that. Where can you deploy this environment? Everywhere you want. So if you don't have an own environment or an own data center as a service provider, just run this on Azure, for example. That's a possibility. But this is the first thing to start with. Of course, like Philippe already said, most customers also are looking, or perhaps want an offsite backup copy. So then the same design picture comes into play, but we add a repository on the service provider side. And that repository is secured for individual customers. So that's a multi-tenant repository. We call that a cloud repository from Veeam perspective. So each customer, so in this case, it's just one customer, of course, otherwise the picture gets a little bit crowded, gets a tunnel, it gets connected. Oh, sorry for that, going too fast. And it will transfer its data to one of those cloud repositories. What's also a possibility is to offer disaster recovery as a service, so offsite replication. I think you get the picture already. Same picture, Cloud Connect server, Cloud Gateway, the Veeam Service Provider Console on top of that, or the self-service restore portal, but I won't cover that. And what we then do is we replicate VMs coming from ESX or Hyper-V to the service provider, and the service provider will make for each tenant, for each customer, a disaster recovery hardware plan. And a hardware plan is just a number of CPU resources, RAM resources, a little bit of storage, and of course some networking, which is dedicated for this tenant, for this customer, to run the replicated VM in case of a disaster, or in case of emergency. And of course, all connected to the same Veeam Cloud Connect SSL tunnel. Of course, you can mix all those options together, depending on the business needs of your end customers, and you will get something like this. So we can do backup and replication, and of course, we can do management. Looking at this from a broader perspective. So for example, I have customer A, B, and C. And customer A has its own Veeam backup and replication server. It has Veeam backup for Office 365. It has an agent. We manage that from the service provider console on the left. But for customer B, he uses different agents. He uses Veeam 1 as well. So that's a different type of solution. And customer C only has virtual infrastructure running on premise in its own Veeam backup and replication server, or even in the cloud with our integration with Azure or AWS, and a lost physical server for whatever reason. You can imagine that customer C doesn't need to have a remote backup copy to the Veeam Cloud Connect repository. Then you don't offer that for them, but you still offer management. So the white line for remote management and monitoring. With the integration with Pulse, as you can see on top, we can provide licensing to all those customers, but those customers can also use their own licensing if they want. So it's up to you, and I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes, how that looks like from the service provider console perspective. So our service provider console is a web interface. It looks like this, but of course, I'm not going to show you all those nice little screenshots. I'm going to demo that. So let me open my browser. So let me first sign out. This is the web page. You can sign in here with credentials coming from your own management directory, for example, but you can also integrate this with ADFS or SAML. So you can use third-party authentication with multi-factor authentication if you want. So if you sign in, you will come into the monitoring part. I'm not going to cover all the configuration details because, of course, before we can see things, we need to add a Cloud Connect server in the service provider console, because the Cloud Connect server is the server on which we all, where we get all the communication with our end customers. But after you have done that, you will see all your tenants here. So in this case, I have a couple of tenants here, customer 1 till 6. And you can see that some of those customers have some agents, they have some protected VMs, they have backup copies in the Veeam Cloud Connect repository. We have some alarms because we need to look into that. And we can see, for example, customer 4 has also got some protected files coming from NAS. We can click on those. So, for example, if you click on that, you will see all protected virtual machines coming from specific companies, specific backup servers, and how many backups there are, when the last backup was made. So just some general overview monitoring we can do. Of course, we have that in a dashboard structure as well, where you can see all those backup jobs and what have failed, what is succeeded. So for example, let's go to today, the details of today, and I can see that I have some warnings on some replication jobs. Here I have a warning on a other machine, and you can filter them out. So you can only view all successes, or only view all warnings, or all errors. No errors today, that's good. Or just view all. So you can do some filtering here, and you can basically see what's happened with the backup jobs. So let's go back to, for example, here we have some errors. I have a failed job here. That's a cloud VM. So that's a VM running in Azure. And I know my storage bucket has been removed because this is a demo environment and sometimes things happen. So sometimes it's good to just show you this so you can see what happened. So we need to fix this before we can rerun the new backups. We have some alarms regarding that. And what you are seeing now is you're seeing all my companies, all my resellers, because at the top here, I have a selection of which I want to see. So if I only want to see, for example, my customer 1, I only see customer 1. Because I'm signed in as the global admin of the entire system, I can see all resellers, I can see all customers, but of course you can really give access drilled down to specific customers, to specific internal users, You can build your own role-based access control on what specific people or customers are allowed to see and do. Let's go back to the entire overview. So, for example, all those backup jobs that are failed or I didn't run correctly, I can see that in the backup jobs here. And we have some selections here. We have backup jobs of virtual machines. And a virtual machine is a virtual infrastructure. So Hyper-V, VMware, AHV, whatever you are running in or your customers are running in their data centers. And you can see those jobs here. So for example, let me go to myself. Let me filter my customer one here. I could select this job and press start. What happens now is that we instruct the VBR server at my customer side to start this replication job or this backup job. So let's start. What it now is doing is it's starting a job. And to show you what's happening, I will go to the customer server here. You see those backup jobs here, and this backup job is starting. So this is an option for example, help desk or service desk employees to run the daily job. So if one of those people in your organization have the responsibility to check backups every day, they can see all backup jobs of all their customers and what's happened with them. And if backup jobs have failed or are not running correctly, they can restart those jobs. So this will run. Yes, Philippe?
This is also what I mentioned before. So the monitoring part. We all know Belgians tend to be a bit cautious when it comes down to managed services. So this is exactly what Arjan is showing you, is exactly what you can offer in the first step, because this simply allows you to have a view on that. And each day it's easy to check this and to let your end customer know, like, everything is okay, or we detected a small issue, but it's that. So your end customer has some confidence or gets confidence in you that you can do that follow-up. And that will be the next step into a managed service. So the more he gets confident, the more your success can be as a managed service provider in the future. So I think it shows exactly what we were talking about.
If I can interrupt for a second, I can also see a question in the chat box. And the question is VBO 365 also included in the overview in this version of the console?
From licensing perspective, yes. From job perspective, not yet. I think it's coming here, but not at this moment. So I will cover that a couple of seconds later when I'm going to show you where you can see the integration with Veeam 1 and server and Office 365, and when I cover the licensing part. So bear with me for a couple of seconds, and we'll show you. And if there's still questions, please ask in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks, Ruben. You can do different things here. So stop, retry, enable job. So this job, my Hyper-V job is disabled, for example. I can enable that. But what's also very convenient. So imagine there is something happening at the customer side, and you want to open a support case with Veeam Support. The first thing Veeam Support will ask you, could you send me the log files? You can download those log files here. So you don't need to go with a VPN to the end customer, open their Veeam backup and replication server, fetch those logs. You can do it right here from the service provider console. What's also a possibility is to open a PowerShell from here and to adjust things on your customer side. When you do this, you need to have credentials of your end customers, of course. We can't do things secretly in the back. when we open PowerShell, the first thing is it will ask, give me the credentials of the customer, so of the VBR server at the customer site in this case. So it gives you some more options. You can see those public cloud backups jobs. So in this case, there are some jobs from running in Microsoft Azure. You can't start them here or run them here. That's coming as well. But we'll continue on improving this console, of course. But you will get an ID if the backup have run successfully. If you are running in AWS, you will get the AWS VMs here as well. If you're running Google Cloud or your customers is running in Google Cloud, you will see that as well coming. So that's the virtual part. And you can drill down to specific customers. So I can go to customer 4, for example. That's my colleague in Belgium, which we have connected his backup server with my service provider console, and I can start a backup job there. So I can run this job, for example, if I want. Not going to do that. Then we have the computers part. So let's go back to all resellers and companies. Go back to computers. So what we mean with computers, we mean our Veeam agent. So our Veeam agent for Windows, Linux, or Mac. And you have two possibilities to manage an agent. If the customer is running Veeam backup and replication, we can just use their Veeam backup and replication server to manage the physical environment there. Install an agent coming from the protection groups from it in Veeam backup and replication. So then we have a computer managed by a backup server. We can do the same here. We can do start, stop, enable, disable. You can see what's happened with those jobs. But what's more, what's nice, what we can do is we imagine you have a customer who doesn't use Veeam yet. He has some remote servers or some remote workstations, and they want to provide a backup solution for that. We can deploy a Veeam agent to those servers, to those workstations remotely, and schedule a job. So it makes it a little bit more, it makes it easier to use our agents to make backups of unsupported environments, for example, or for environments where we can't touch the hypervisor. So imagine you have a customer running a workload somewhere in an IaaS data center, but you as a service provider don't have the control of that IaaS data center. But your customer asks you, can you protect my workloads there? How can we do that? Just deploy an agent on that workload and point the backup job of that agent to Cloud Connect. For example, we can all manage that here. So you can see I have a laptop here. That's my own laptop on which I'm doing this demo, but I have a demo laptop here as well. And on those demo laptop, I have installed my agent and I have created a job. And that job looks like this. Sorry, let's press edit. I give that a name. I define if it's a workstation or a server. So in this case, it's a laptop, so a workstation is fine. I define what I want to back up, so the entire computer or just some volumes or just some files, depending on your business needs or your customer's business needs. And I point that to the Veeam Cloud Connect repository. It will get some data in my repository. I define my retention policy, all the things you normally can do when you make a manually job for an agent. And so do you want to do synthetic fools or active fools? Do you want to do some maintenance? What's the compression and dedup? How about encryption? You can set it up here. Define how long you want to store those backups. We can even do the GFS part. So I want to do the weeklies, the monthlies, and the yearlies, depending on your business needs. So in my case, I didn't do that. We press next. We fill in the credentials. This will be automatically created when we add those workstations to the tenant. Some other settings, we define a schedule. And what we then do, we install those agents to my laptop. We push this policy, and this policy gets run according to the schedule. We can do that with servers. So this is a domain controller. We can do that with laptops, and you can really specify different backup policies. You can run the job, stop the job, etc. You can even give users access to the Veeam agent that is installed on their laptop or on their workplace. Why you want to do that? For example, to do a restore, so they can do a restore of their own files. If you don't want that because you're doing a totally 100% managed service, you just give them read-only access. They can't do anything with that. It really depends on what you want to do. So this way, we are able to protect individual servers, individual computers, either directly managed by the Veeam Service Provider console, or managed by the backup server. So for example, you saw this one, huh? So this one, when I go to my backup server, you see a Veeam agent job here. So this is my Veeam1 server. I made backups of that. You probably have that in your environment as well. But because this VBR server is managed by my service provider console, you see those jobs here. The other options, so the domain controller, I'm just make a backup directly of our domain controller going to Cloud Connect. And that's being managed from service provider console. How do we manage that? We manage that here with discovered computers. So we install a little software on the on all those agents. We deploy a little agent there, and with that agent we can manage all those computers depending on which company, on which tenant they are residing. What we then can do with those companies, so we have those backup agents here. So for example, this domain controller, we can assign those backup policies. You already saw that. But we can also update and patch the Veeam backup agent. We can restart, reboot. We can download the logging. So if there's, for example, this agent doesn't work correctly, and you want to open a support case with Veeam, just download the logs here. Or perhaps you already saw that in this case it's up to date, but it's running a very old version. Perhaps it's time to update this to a specific version or to a new version. What's also a possibility is to install a patch. So for example, if you get a hotfix of support because you have a specific issue, we can deploy a patch here. This way you can really do remote management of agents. We can also do that for that backup server. So you saw that backup server that I was running. So this is mine. The other one is from Stein. It's our colleague. Perhaps some of you know them. We can do the same with my backup server. So I can restart some backup services. I can patch those. I can remote, but also I can download the logs, of course. This gives me the correct options to do remote management without going to VPN, RDP on the VPR, on the Veeam backup and replication server. Just do it here. As you can see, the server of Stein, for example, isn't running update 11a yet. So I could update that here as well. I'm not going to do that, but that's a possibility. So all those options are available. So I showed you customers, and these customers are basically Cloud Connect tenants. And when I create a new customer, I do that here, of course. I give all these names, what I want. So let me do test. For example, I'm not going to finish that. We're going to make a Cloud Connect environment. I'm going to give them a Cloud Connect user. So Hanselman's test customer, something like that. Sorry. Give it a password. Cover the RESTful API later. You define on which Cloud Connect site they are going to connect. So, for example, the ones of you who have multiple Cloud Connect environments. And so if you grow a little bit bigger as a service provider, I can imagine you have a data center in Brussels, you have a data center in Antwerp or in the Netherlands or whatever, on different locations. You build a Cloud Connect environment for data center 1, for data center 2. Give it a logical name here, and you can define on which data center this customer gets access. Later on, you can define that they get access to both data centers, of course, but then they will see 2 data centers when they get connected to Cloud Connect. So, if you don't want to do backup as a service, so the remote backup copies and the disaster recovery, so the remote replicas, just don't check these boxes. But if you do, we're going to ask you, okay, sorry, how many resources do you want? Unlimited quota. So, cloud repository. And how many repository quota do you want? You don't, so this customer has agreed with you that they can copy 500 gigabytes of data to your Cloud Connect. Just fill it in like this, and you have allowed them to do that for 5 VMs, 0 workstations, 0 servers. Do it something like that. Turn on the recycle bin. For the ones who don't know what this option means, it basically means when data gets deleted, it will remain into the Cloud Connect repository for an X amount of days, the amount of days we set up here. And this can help you for ransomware protection. It's not immutable, the backup storage, but imagine, see the first picture you had, so the customer has his own VBR server. They get struck by ransomware, and the ransomware deletes all the data. Then the data gets deleted on the cloud repository as well. But with this checkbox, it isn't deleted, it's just moved, and it remains for 7 days on your end, and you can help your customer restore from that ransomware. Turn it on. Replica. I'm not going to cover the replica, but then we need to add a hardware plan. So let's just add one. We have some subscription plans for billing. I will cover that later. So I will not cover that now. We fill in some bandwidth and concurrent tasks. These are all things anyone who's familiar with Cloud Connect should already know about these settings, where to configure it and what. Press next. Let's skip the MFA part for now. We do some notifications. You can send your customer a welcome email, and we have some summary here. So I'm not going to finish because I have enough customers which already have all those resources. After we have done that, you will send those credentials to your end customer. They will fill it in the first slide Philippe was showing you. And after they have done that, you will see in the configuration on the licensing part, you will probably see those Veeam backup and replication servers come in. So in this case, you already saw my companies. So I have customer 1, that's my demo environment. They are using my rental points. So I have used 121 points. My license goes to 770 points. But you can see the other customer I have is still using its full subscription licensing. So their own perpetual, that's not correct, their own subscription license. The nice thing here is you can leave it like that. You can see when it expires. So you can, that's what Philippe was explaining. We can generate some reporting about this, but you can contact the customer somewhere around July or something. Hey, next month your Veeam subscription is going to expire. What shall we do? Shall we renew the subscription, or do you want to transfer, for example, to rental licensing? Or if everything is possible. And what you can do now is you can install a license from VCSP Pulse to this end customer. And when I do that, this backup server is managed. Yes. Do you want to overwrite? Yes, I want to do that. You get some warnings. I'm not going to do that. We can generate a license file specific to this customer and push that to this end customer. How does that look like? Let's go to the plugin. Let's go to Pulse. You can see we have several companies here, and we have multiple companies here because we are all sharing a big VCSP Pulse environment with all our cloud system engineers in Europe. So you see some other users as well. So this is Peter, that's my colleague. This is Baptiste, that's my French colleague. Here we can map a customer to a license. And when we sign into Pulse, you will see, for example, my customer 4 is using license keys. And what are they using? Where's my customer? Customer 4 isn't using, sorry, that's the wrong one. But you can see, for example, customer 3 is using some Veeam agents. And we can renew, revoke, remove, or assign new licenses to all your customers. So this works basically the same as you have, as you are familiar with within Pulse. I'm not going to assign one. And what you even can do, what Philippe was explaining, is give a reseller access and give a reseller the ability to assign licenses to their end customers on behalf of you. And all those points will be mapped to the to your VRA. So let's go back. As you can see, I have also some Veeam agent here. So that domain controller, which I was providing backups for, that uses a license, an agent license, of course. And customer 2 is using an agent license as well. You can all see those here, and you push those licenses from within the discovery part here. Sorry for that. So you can see, where's my domain controller? It's not here. Here's my domain controller. So let's go back to the configuration and licensing. Here we can add Veeam servers as well. So I have a Veeam server in my demo environment. That Veeam server is monitoring my entire environment, and it uses some points. And I installed a license here. So for example, I could use a different license key as well. So I can push this one as well. What then is happening is that we're pushing this license file, so that directly to the Veeam server. I can do that for the Office 365 server as well. But to do this, to use this, you need to have Office 365 version 6. And that's not yet released. I have it in my lab. That's why I can show you this. So you have to be patient. But this way you can push a license to the Office 365 server. And then what you in the end have is a total overview of all licenses. And all those licenses get into the monthly users report, which you are obliged to deliver to Tech Data in this case each month. So let's view the report of October. And you probably can see that everything is being assigned here. And I don't know if the Veeam and Office 365 aren't here yet. So the Veeam is here yet, but the Office 365 isn't here yet because it wasn't installed in October yet. So the report of November will include the Office 365 licenses as well. And so you have a total overview of total points, which is being used in my environment. This way you can really, with one report, with one overview, you see all your licenses that's being used on your customers, on your own environments, and stuff like that. So we encourage you to add all Veeam servers you are using to connect those to Cloud Connect, to Service Provider Console. Then you get a master overview of all workloads, all Cloud Connect workloads, so backup copies, disaster recoveries, all Veeam backup and replications within your customers, all Veeam and all Office 365s. So as you can see, and this is totally correct, I have 20 licensed users. I added an extra tenant, made a backup of 2 users. They will be new, and the next report they will, and I need to report 22 Office 365 users. So we just encounter, we count all those licenses together. We get some nice reporting here. And you can already know a kind of what the license report is going to be for the next month. Then getting back to billing and subscription, you saw me when I created a tenant that I needed to add a subscription plan. So the main purpose of subscription plans is to facilitate a price for each service so that you can bill your customers with that. So imagine you have agreed with your customers that managed services cost 10 euros FVM a month. That's perhaps a little bit too little, but just imagine. And for that 10 euros, you just manage the backup of that managed VM. That's a possibility. So when we have subscription plans, let me edit one. We can define prices for each individual component. So in this case, we're talking euros. We are having some VAT, so some taxes. You provide 5% discount, so you can do this. So a managed service costs 10 euros a month. Each managed VM costs an extra 1 euro. A cloud VM also 1 euro. And this is just to get a description. So you get a report of all VMs that's running in their environment, and we just add a little bit of a currency value on those resources, and you can use those values to make a billing report for your end customers. For example, we can define what the prices are for backups, prices per gigabytes, stuff like that. We can even do that for file shares. For the cloud backup, so the backup copy to Cloud Connect, we can give it a little bit of price. So each VM costs €2, a server also, a workstation 1, and we define a price for consumed space or for allocated space. It really depends on what you want to do, how you are running your business, but we can also even give a little bit of a pricing for performance, capacity, and archive tier. So for example, my performance tier is expensive storage. It costs 10 euros per gig or per terabyte, I think that's more applicable. But the capacity tier that resides on Wasabi or on-premise S3, Cloudian or whatever, it costs way less. It's only 2 euros a terabyte, something like that. We make all these values, and what we then can do is when we assign such a company, the subscription plan to a company, we can get in the reporting part of that company, we get a billing summary. So what are the invoices that need to be paid, and what's the amount of invoices? Let's go to the invoices. So customer 1 has an invoice based on a different billing report, and as you can see, we have some data in the performance tier, we have some data in the capacity tier. It's priced in this case in US dollars, and you get a total bill. Of course, I can imagine people don't want to bill you don't want to bill your customers from our tool, because you have a different tool for billing, and you probably are delivering more services than just Veeam services to your end customers. All these values, all these currencies, all these can be addressed with the API. So for example, I have a lot of service providers who are talking to our API, fetching all these values each month and providing that in their own billing system and billing their customers. So it really depends on how you want to run your business. We have several possibilities to make reports, show them what's being used, and bill your customers. You can customize these reports if you want, so give it a little bit of your own feeling, replace the Veeam logo with your own logos and stuff like that. But most customers are using the APIs to talk externally and to import that into a different system. We also have some quota reports here, so that has nothing to do with money, with billing, but in the end, the quota defines what you are going to bill, of course. So this reports you can share with your customers. So how many backup sizes, what's in the file share, etc. Last thing, we also have some reports on the status of the backups. So what's in the backup? Did we forget some backups? You can see that in the dashboard and in the monitoring part as well. And when we go down, you can see what's in the backup, when the last backup was run, how many restore points there are, etc. So some nice reports here. All these things are available. Everything you see here in the service provider console is available in the RESTful API. So if you want to bill your customers with a different tool, please go ahead, talk to the API. If you want to build your own portal with some menus, some integrations with us, you can do. This is all available in the API. Last thing I want to show you is the role-based access control. So first thing, we have security here. So we have some things with MFA. We can integrate with Azure or Google Authenticator for MFA. But what's also a possibility is to integrate with single sign-on options. So you can integrate with ADFS or different SAML-based options that you where you can. I need to build it in my demo lab, so I'm not that. I didn't do that yet, so I didn't have time to build this. But when you do, you can go here to roles and users, and you can define. I can't do that, but it works the same. You can make roles based on accounts, on groups. Let me do a quick example here next. Sorry, and you can define what they can. So in this case, I can configure my portal, but you can also do this for resellers and for end customers. So end customers can sign in here if they want, if you want, and resellers can sign in here as well with different single sign-on options, so different ADFS, different configurations. So you can build the entire role-based access structure as you want to deliver your services. Last but not least, if you want to integrate with some third-party tools like ConnectWise or Grafana, it's possible here to get some more reports out of that. And what they are basically doing is they are talking with our APIs as well. But they have some predefined API options that we can talk to. But you can integrate every reporting or every monitoring tool with our system due to the APIs. If you want to play around with the APIs, just go to the URL plus API, I think. That's API. Go to the API. We have some swagger here, so you can play around with all the things you saw. Backup server jobs, get the jobs, posted jobs, two things. So all the things you saw in the portal, we can do from API. Of course, you first need to authorize, so you need to be able to talk with the API with the correct credentials. But that's a possibility. So coming back on the Office 365 question, for now it's just a licensing integration we are doing, where you can see what's used from licensing perspective. Later on, we'll probably, but I don't know, I can't promise you that, we'll perhaps are going to integrate the jobs here so that you're probably going to see backup jobs here with an extra tab called Office 365, something like that. But you have to wait for newer versions. Any questions? Totally quiet.
Okay, it's clear.
Okay. So if you haven't set it up, Service Provider Console is free. It only will cost you a server and some resources. The license you need for Service Provider Console is the Cloud Connect license. So the same license file that you have set up in your Cloud Connect server is being used for the Service Provider Console. Of course, you need some resources, a dedicated server for that. Probably, if you do this, if you are going to do this on a production level, and just start with it. Install the Service Provider Console, connect a Cloud Connect server, and you will probably are going to see a lot of things that are more familiar than my demo environment, because it's your client environment. That's all your clients, and just start with it. You really can't mess up things because it's a management and monitoring solution, and you can still use Cloud Connect, the basic Cloud Connect functionalities which you are using right now, instead of the Service Provider Console. So please start using it, and I'm happy to help or to assist if you have questions when you have deployed it and things are unclear, please ask me or ask Philippe or ask Emilia or whatever. You can ask all of us or ask to Tech Data. That's also fine. The questions will get back to us.
We'll check
We
the
can
help
help.
center.
Of course, we have some help center knowledge as well.
Which
some
is
best
still pretty
practice.
unknown to most of the partners, to my surprise. So it's a great tool to assist you in the daily life with Veeam.
It's also, and it's a bit strange, it gives you a little bit more of a security for your end customers, because when you do daily management for end customers, you probably have VPN connections available. You're doing remote RDP sessions to Veeam backup and replication servers, because you need to check if a job has run successfully. Probably you get some email, that's also fine, but with this, you don't need to have those VPN connections, you don't need to RDP, and that are all attack factors for ransomware as well. So imagine ransomware has infiltrated your end, and you're 9 out of 10 times you're an administrator, so you sign into your end customer, you RDP, and then they get an entrance into the end customer to infiltrate them with ransomware. So if you start using tools like this, you don't need to do that. So I'm not saying it will prevent ransomware, it will prevent attacks, but it's an extra attack factor that gives a little bit more control on those perspectives. So think about that a little bit. If there are no more questions, I have a final slide. So you already saw version 6 of Veeam backup and Veeam backup for Office 365, which is going to be renamed to Veeam backup for Microsoft 365. We need to lose the VBO things. So I think I'm going to tell that a couple of years still. It's VBO, but it's VBM. So version 6 is coming. It's not yet there. You already saw the integration with the service provider console from license perspective, but it will give a self-service restore portal for end customers. And we are going to do a backup copy to low-cost object storage, aka AWS Glacier and Azure Archive. Keep that in mind. So when the final release is being released, we're probably going to have a new webinar, several webinars, so but just a little glimpse into the future. So if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you, but otherwise I'm still here, so you can ask questions.
Thank you, Arjan and Philippe, for the great and educational presentation. And thanks to all the participants for joining us today. I think there are no questions left in the chat box. So you did a great job, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, great.